You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, we can always handle the truth. Blasting out of the bunker, Zero Dark 30. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Big thanks go out to all the channel supporters, Mr. T, Shelly, Leanne, John, Ooman, Fawn, Cat, everyone. If I missed your name, just consider yourself one of those top secret Johns. Kind of like my brother Roger and Jimmy. Brothers Roger and Jimmy. Anyways, folks, a lot of people are making it happen, and we're going to have a little discussion here about the thin line. What is this thin line shit? What am I talking about now? Well, there's an expression out there, right? You crossed the line. You went too far. Right? What is this line? How is it described? Well, it's a red line. Don't you dare cross it. Okay, red line. Don't cross it. You know, why is it thin? Well, the reason it's actually thin is because it's a yes or no. Right? There's a lot of difference between yes and no. Yes, we're going to war. Yes, we're going to fight. Yes, we're going to have peace. Or no to those things. Right? The consequences of no is crazy. The consequences of yes is very, very crazy. Right? I choose dangerous freedom over catastrophic, terrifying, and deadly tyranny. Yeah, freedom can be dangerous. All of life is dangerous. I tell you, folks, we got some troubles. But let's talk about this thin line, this red line, this line that's been crossed or threatening to be crossed yet again. It's the Second Amendment. It's gun control. And I'll share a quick little story. Back when I was just a young man, fresh out of the Marine Corps, I was back in my home state, my home county in California, rural Northern California. And I ran into the sheriff, not a sheriff's deputy, but the sheriff. And I said, hey, man, what's going on with this gun control shit? Right? They had the assault weapons ban that was passed by the U.S. Senate and Congress in violation of multiple rights and government rules. Still, it lasted. And his name was Ken. Ken was actually a really good sheriff, really good man. I've talked about him in the past. Anyways, Ken, he said, hey, don't worry about it. He says, and if you want, come on down and get a concealed weapons permit. I was outraged, right? I thought gun control, and this is back in the early 90s, folks, 30 years ago. Since my little episode and everyone else's episode with that gun control legislation, right, it's gotten a whole lot worse, has it not? The tyranny, the interconnectedness, all of the shit that's going on between government, private corporations, banking, and then, of course, private oligarch interests in the World Economic Forum, which can't be stated enough. Right? Here we have, folks, on the heels of multiple reiterations by the United States Supreme Court, other federal courts, and even local courts, that rules being passed by the government are unconstitutional, for which I believe there ought to be a serious penalty for passing such laws in the face and against all good common sense and our rights. Still, Oregon has passed, right? This new, for them, attempt at, gun restrictions, impositions, you can say roadblocks, and deterrence to try to keep people from their rights. Well, the sheriffs, many sheriffs, multiple sheriffs in Oregon have come out, as a sheriff for every county, and said, hey, it's not happening. We're not going to enforce it. We don't have to enforce it. It's an unconstitutional law. We will not enforce those. There's a thin line out there, folks. A very thin line. When law enforcement says we will obey unconstitutional demands upon our office and we will enforce unconstitutional law that violate the rights of the people, especially the big one. When they do that, that's a line that will have been crossed that you can't just uncross. There's been a lot of issues with law enforcement for years due to the, shall we say, tyrannical nature of government with regard to privacy, property rights, traveling, now, vaccination status, Fourth and Fifth Amendment issues, but now, they've always had this Second Amendment one hanging out there. There's big trouble, folks, if they keep pushing this. Now, see, I'm not worried about these little laws in these states like this. I mean, I am, but the big one is the big guy himself, Joe Gigi Biden, right? Pedo Hitler himself. At what point does the government at the federal level, along with their cohorts in the states, who were more than happy to violate everyone's rights during the COVID bullshit, were completely aware of people like Whitmer and Hochul and Cuomo and Prickster and Inslee and the rest, Newsom, right? If they're willing to violate your rights over the sniffles, and I know all about it, folks. Some people die from the common cold. I get it. It's not a good thing. But for the rest of us, it's the sniffles. If they're willing to violate everything over the sniffles, shut down your business, destroy the economy, right? Deny people their rights to food, as well as travel, then what's to stop them from, in some other emergency, say, this is such a big emergency, we need to violate your rights and cross that line? Are you prepared, folks, for what happens if and when they cross that line and many other lines that we say, that's it, that's the red line. You cross that, it's over. Folks, when they cross the line, they're declaring and telling you, yeah, it's over. They're done with the line. The line is the restrictive line that protects us from them. Are you prepared? Now, when it comes to being prepared, it's having stuff, right? Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Stuff. So you make a decision. It's a yes or no decision. Yes, I want to be prepared, or no, I don't. And of course, there's all these gradients in the middle. Do I want to be super prepared or kind of prepared for 3 months or 6 months or 3 years, right? Whatever. But part of that is decision making, the planning, right? Once again, right? There's having all those items, and then there's having a plan. They cross that line, folks. They cross any line. Are you prepared for what comes next? It doesn't make the decision fun. It doesn't make it meaningless, pointless. It just means the decision is there and you have your answer. Once you have your answer, taking action doesn't become easier. It becomes manageable. Right? You don't control a situation, you manage a situation. You don't control a crisis, for Pete's sake. You manage the components as best you can around a crisis, an emergency, a Mad Max scenario, for example. You can't control other people in it, but you can manage that area around your bunker, your house, your hidey hole, whatever you want to call your location. You manage things and you manage decisions. And if you have managed to make that decision ahead of time, what do I do? Where do I stand? What is going to be my reaction if they cross that line? Whether it's the Second Amendment again, But they go for the big enchilada and just say, we're outlawing everything. You know, just like jackass chief of police in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina, when he said, there ain't going to be no guns. We're going to go after the guns. I mean, he literally sounded like a moron. We're going to get the guns. They just decided the hurricane was an excuse to confiscate people's weapons. Whether or not they were home, whether or not they were safe, whether or not they felt threatened, it was just, we're going to go get the guns. And they sent in, that's right, the military, the National Guard from other states they brought in. They brought in California Highway Patrol, all the way to Louisiana. Makes a lot of sense, right? Because when they cross that line, folks, they go all the way. Right? How are you going to manage? What is your decision going to be? Chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Godspeed. God bless America and Semper Fi.